So Kasparov, you have to understand, this man is like, he's unbelievably good, like unbelievably good. He was so intimidating. I spoke to several chess grandmasters when I was researching this book, and they described him as being like a tornado when he entered the room. Like everyone was kind of pinned to the sides, like watching this great man sort of walk through. And he had these tricks where he would totally out-psych his opponents before he'd even, really sat down at the board. And one of the things that he would used to do was he would take off his watch as he started to play, and he would put it on the table next to him. And he'd kind of toy with his opponent for a bit, and let them think that they were having some kind of game. And then when he was bored of toying with them, he would pick up his watch and he would return it to his wrist. And that was this signal that everyone in the room recognized, which is that Kasparov was done with you now. He was finished toying with you.
He's like, I'm bored.
I'm bored. You need to resign this game now, because otherwise I'm just going to take you down.
The game, and I picked up the line that I never played before. But that was my hope, that since I never played it before and it was not part of my opening repertoire, that computer would not be ready. And I play in this position very risky, to be precise, a bad move, h6, attacking the knight, and provoking white to sacrifice a piece, which is very strong. It's maybe not winning, but gives white a very strong initiative. But machines don't sacrifice the piece for a pawn without having a concrete outcome inside. So I expected that computer would go back on e4, because this move was not in the special database prepared by Grandmaster team that worked with Deep Blue. And to my horror, Deep Blue immediately took on e6, which meant that the move was already put in. And for instance, one of the big issues after our first match in Philadelphia for me was, how can I prepare if I didn't have any games? This is the normal way to prepare. You look at the games of your opponent. And Deep Blue in Philadelphia was a black box. I had no idea what it was capable of. Though I saw few games that machine played against other computers, but it was not the machine that faced me.
He told thousands and thousands of times. I mean, there's no chess match in history that's been pored over more than that one. But for me, I have a slightly different take on what happened during that match than the normal stories tend to cover, because I think for me it wasn't so much a story about how remarkable the achievement of IBM's Deep Blue had been, despite the fact that this was a remarkable achievement. Technically it was a remarkable achievement. I think for me this was the story about how Kasparov let his human flaws lose him the match.
Machine doesn't know how to ask right questions. It can ask questions, but it will never tell you which questions are relevant. So it's a direction. So I think it's in human-machine relations we have to consider our role, and many people feel uncomfortable that the territory that belongs to us is shrinking. I'm saying, so what? This is eventually will belong to the last few decimal points, but it's like having a very powerful gun. And all you can do there is slightly alter direction of the bullet, maybe 0.1 degree of this angle, but that means a mile away, 10 meters of the target.
Yes.
So we have to recognize that there's a certain unique human qualities that machines in a foreseeable future will not be able to reproduce. And the effectiveness of this collaboration depends on our understanding what exactly we can bring into the game. So the greatest danger is when we try to interfere with machine superior knowledge. So that's why I always say that sometimes you'd rather have, by reading these pictures in radiology, you may probably prefer an experienced nurse rather than having a top professor, because she will not try to interfere with machines' understanding. So it's very important to know that if machines knows how to do better things in 95%, 96% of territory, we should not touch it, because it's happened. It's like in chess. Recognize they do it better. See where we can make the difference.
So one of the lesser known things about this machine was that it was programmed to be able to play chess, of course, but it was also programmed to try and psych Kasparov out. So it was programmed to, when it came up with an answer, to sometimes it would just sit on that answer for a little while and just count down the timer, just let the timer
crank
tick down.
the wheels and the gears.
Exactly. Steam coming off it. And the idea behind that is that it wanted Kasparov to start thinking about what was going on inside the machine, to start second guessing the machine. So Kasparov got caught in this thing of, oh, well, I must have pulled it into this position where it's struggling with this calculation, and I've done something that it's finding really tricky, when in reality the machine was just sitting back and, letting the timer tick down. And Kasparov, in his own book, has written about his emotional state during that process, because ultimately I think that widely in the chess community they regard that Kasparov was still better than the machine at that moment in time. Deep Blue was not a better chess player than Kasparov, but it was Kasparov's attitude towards the machine that was the thing that lost him the match.